Welcome. Hello, everybody. It's Crystyn Shaniqua. My mom will want me to throw that in there. Crystyn Shaniqua Wright Diaz with the right stuff, talking culture, politics, and history, because that's what we do over here at American Legacy Network. Welcome to everybody who's joining us today. Today is part of our celebration for Women's History Month. We are still in March, and so I found it quite fitting to talk about or to chat with, meet up with a really, really powerful woman who I've met in my travels, in my financial planning, somebody who's a real gem in Harlem, and who can also help us take ourselves to the next level when it comes to our finances. We're hearing a lot right now. Women are leading. Many Black women are leading, and so one of the conversations that we're always in is like, okay, if we're leading, then what's happening with our families? What's happening with our wealth? What's happening with our bank accounts? And what we're noticing is, even though, we're, getting the education, we're getting the money, but there's like a little glitch happening, right? There's still something missing there as to why we are not holding the money, keeping the money. And that's some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. Because, hey, we're here, we're women, we roar. And, along with our partners, we're setting a foundation and a future for whoever comes behind us. So I would like to welcome Vonne. Pew, pew, pew. I'm going to read you guys a bit about Vonne, and then we're going to get into some questions. Please feel free to add your questions. Josh will be dropping them in the background. We got a producer in the room. So as we go along, I'll continue adding whatever questions you guys might have that you want to throw out to Vonne. All right. So Vonne Williams is an investor. I wish I had sound effects. International business coach and tax accountant committed to supporting entrepreneurs and young adults in creating generational wealth for themselves, their families, and their communities. When the market crashed in 2007, and after a very bad personal situation, she found herself broke and living in a minivan. From that experience and the lessons that she learned, Vonne dedicates her life to forwarding others and herself in living the best financial life through personal development methodologies. Coaching is her passion, but she also enjoys researching stocks and real estate opportunities. Vonne has a thriving tax practice in Harlem, as well as being part of the Social Change Agents Institute. While being a social change agent, she traveled to South Africa and led entrepreneurship collaboration workshops in Johannesburg, Mafeking, and Cape Town. Vonne holds a bachelor's in electronic technology from Norfolk State. Whoop, whoop, shout out to the HBCUs. A certificate in audio engineering and production from the Institute of Audio Research. She's also a certified holistic life coach. And she was in the Army for 6 years. This just keeps getting better. Vonne, you got all the things. She
Yes, I
also
do.
serves as chair of the board of deacons and chair of the stewardship ministry at her church. And she shares the message of abundance and speaks at numerous public schools and nonprofits throughout the country, encouraging others to dream big and follow their passion. She's also a Delta, by the way. Women's History Month. I wore red for her today.
Oh, thank you very much.
So Vonne, thank you for joining us today, because there's a
Absolutely.
whole lot to talk about. You know,
Yes.
finances, wealth, Black folks is a
Hmm.
thing,
It is a thing.
and it's really, really important to know our history so that we can not repeat mistakes of the past and really set a great foundation for our future. So let's talk about it. How culture, politics, and history all come into financial wealth. And where did you start, Vonne? Take us back.
Oh, wow. Where did I start? I probably started getting into this whole financial thing right after I moved into the minivan. That's when it got real.
So
Um,
take me way back and bring me to where we ended up in the minivan.
all
Where's
right.
Vonne from?
All right, got it. So I'm from a small town in North Carolina called Reedsville. Shout out to
Woo.
Reedsville, whomever is watching. Um, and I watched my parents write checks. I watched them write checks. But, we didn't do too badly. For all intents and purposes, my parents were what was considered white collar, if you will. I got to get a car when I was 16, but there was no conversation around money except pay your bills. You go to work, you pay your bills. You get a good job, you pay your bills. You get a prestigious job, you pay your bills. There was no, and save your money, which doesn't mean very much. All right. Now, I understand that in the 70s and 80s, then or let's take it before that, that was what we had access to. If we had access to the stock market, that wasn't something that we talked about, right? That wasn't something that we thought that we had access to. And, that I'm being presumptuous about that because I don't know. I could just go based on what I was exposed to. And we didn't talk about that. Now, again, it was all about save, make a lot of money, get a good job, make your money, save some of it, pay your bills. Make sure that you have adequate transportation and clean clothes. We're saving up for college. Check. Yes, we're saving up for college. All right, cool. Got it. And my mom taught us how to do a budget. She taught us how to do all of that.
Okay, that's one up than a lot of people.
Yeah, she did teach us how to do that. This is how, but she was an accountant. So, yeah, she was an accountant. She's an accountant, and my father was an educator, and my sister is a college professor. So go figure. Anyway, so yeah, it was, and she also gave me a pretty good lesson on entrepreneurship. So I've always had some little hustle going on that can make me a few coins here and there. So I had this little arts and crafts type business when I was, early teens, and she bought my material for me. The first time I got some, I sold all these little things. She says, okay, I'm gonna need my money back.
Oh, what an investor.
You gonna need your money back? She's like, yeah, that was a loan. But she didn't tell me what that was. She didn't tell me that was cost of goods sold. But I'm just like, okay. So if I buy a thing and I get money from somebody else, I've got to pay them back. So then, no, I'm going to use my own money, whatever I make. But again, great lesson without actually saying anything.
Yeah.
I've got to use my own money to invest in my business in order for it to work. So again, great lesson.
So your mom was just dropping those gems without really.
Oh yeah, but that's what they did. They spoke in riddles. I never knew what they were talking about until like now. I'll be 53 in September. I'm just getting it. So
note to the folks who are listening who have children, right? When we are teaching them lessons about money, it's very important to be direct, right? We don't want them to riddle me this and riddle me that.
Listen, plain English works. It works. Trust me.
And so let's pause at that, right? Mm-hmm, if we take it back to when you were younger, how some of those early financial values were instilled in you, and we'll kind of track it with the rest of your life as you continue to grow older and learn new things.
Yes.
Based on the way that your parents handled you with money, what would you tell a parent who has a child around your age who wants to start a business, who wants to do a charity or something like that? Shout out to Chelsea's charity. I'm always following her. She's awesome, guys. She has art products, not sells. She gives art products to children around the world. But let's talk about that. What does entrepreneurship look like for kids? How do we set our kids up to be knowledgeable about that and let them learn their lessons?
Well, if they're interested in entrepreneurship, absolutely cultivate that. Absolutely cultivate that. Find out what it is that they want to do. Ask them if they have any money. Ask them if they have any money to start their business, because the bank will ask you that. Do you have money to start your business before I loan you anything? And the child says, well, yeah, I've got $50 that grandma gave me, and I've got, $100 that, X, Y, and Z gave me. So, I've got about $200 in my shoebox or my piggy bank or wherever they hold their money. Um, and you say, okay, well, you're going to have to invest that into your business. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what your startup costs are going to be. What is our initial investment? And whatever you have, I will match it or give you what you need to get started. But as soon as you start to turn a profit, I'm going to need my money back.
Just like your mama.
Well, she didn't have this conversation with me. She just took the money. Give me back my money. What? So,
all right.
And so, but when you have this conversation, it sets them up. So when they sit down at the bank, it's like, yo, I done heard this somewhere before.
Right.
And that's the conversation that happens when you're speaking to investors, because an investor is going to want to know, how am I going to get my money back? If I loan you $1 million, or if I invest $1 million in you, how am I going to get my $1 million plus my cut? Right.
Yeah, so what I'm taking away from this, and like I said, being direct instead of having them figure it out the first time they walk into a bank, that's a large part of learning with money, right? Because we don't all know. We didn't all come from families where people were investing or where people were entrepreneurs. And so the first time we're figuring out some of these big lessons is sitting in front of a bank or when somebody's coming to get our stuff, right?
Right, which is a culture shock. It's a culture shock.
Yeah. So after mom, I'm sure you gave mom her money back because she took it. Keep us on that train. Yeah. What happened next for you? I know you went into the military, college.
Yes.
How was money then, and then how did it?
Well, so I went to college out of high school, but again, I always had some hustle happening. So I would do
what were your hustles?
Oh, I did everything. I did 2 and 3 jobs, McDonald's, pick something. Whatever was available, I tried to do it because I liked having money. I liked to be able to buy the expensive sneakers because that's what I wanted. I was an athlete. I had the first generation Air Jordan.
Ooh, you had ones?
I had the first generation back in 85.
Vonne had ones, guys. Read all about it. If you still have those, they're an art piece.
Right.
Give them to a museum, right?
So. Tell me about it. Child, things long gone. But anyway, I wanted those. And, my parents didn't come from that. They were like, I don't understand that. I'm not buying those. I'm not getting that. You figure it out. So I figured that if I want this, that, and the third, then I'm going to need money. I will earn it myself. When I went to college, it was the same thing. Look, I sold T-shirts. Back then it was black by popular demand. Listen, I was selling those T-shirts on the yard, always had a hustle. McDonald's, McDonald's was the default and the go-to. If there was no money to be made, I would go to McDonald's and flip burgers, and I was good at it. So, that didn't bother me. I worked at music stores, did telemarketing, whatever I needed to do to keep money in my pocket. That's what I was going to do. And, my mom helped me get through college. No problem. And then I went into the military, and even in the military, I had me a side hustle. I was not moonlighting. So,
Wait, again, what was the side hustle?
I was bartending at the local bar.
Okay. I used to do hair in college. Listen, I would do hair. That was my thing. Hair, teach dance classes, and work in the costume room. That was and work on the safe team. I used to escort people with a flashlight. So I'm always curious
see you doing that.
What people's hustles were. Those of us who like to keep money in our pocket.
Exactly. But I did fall into the trap when I was in college. They were out on the yard. These people.
They offered you M&Ms, and you took that credit card?
Sure did. I sure did. And So nobody tells you what that's about. You need to start building your credit, but they don't tell you how to start building your credit. I personally am very I tell the college students to leave those credit cards alone. There are plenty of them that you can, like, you don't need it while you're in school. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave the I will you can call me. I will buy you some M&Ms. All right. I will send you a t-shirt. All right. I will if it will keep a college student from applying for credit, I will send them money. Like, don't do it. You are putting yourself behind the power curve before you get started, because when you swipe that card, it feels good. It's like crack.
Yeah.
It's that first hit. You swipe that card, it feels good. You walk out and you go, "Oh, I just used somebody's money that wasn't even mine. That ain't my money." And then but then the bill comes and you're like, "Well, what am I supposed to do with this?"
Pay $20 a month. That's the minimum, right?
Maybe, maybe not. If you don't know what it's a bill and you're supposed to pay it, and then $20 gets to be $100. And in college, your average college student had enough. Their parents sent them enough money to wash their clothes and maybe get them a hamburger on the weekend. Like the people in my college dorm did not have no whole lot of money. They didn't have $20 to send to no credit card company.
Yeah.
Even when we were juniors and seniors, we were trying to get our degrees and graduate and go on about our life. And those credit cards messed up a lot of us.
Yeah.
By the time we were 22, we were already $5, 6, 7, $8,000 in debt, $10,000 in credit card debt. Because if you send them $20 enough times, they will raise your credit limit.
Hmm.
Oh, more money. And we running off to Applebee's and Daryl's and whomever else. And we're just drinking and, eating and having a good time.
So what would you say a parent who's like, my child's going away to college, I want to give them a credit card, or I want them to have something for emergencies. What should the parameters be around that?
The parameters are emergencies.
Emergencies are not shirts, because that's what happened to me.
See? Well, here's the other thing. Now, an emergency is what? You got
Tires.
tires. Okay. All right. We still not at $500. Keep going. What is an emergency?
What's not? That's $500. My tires.
What is what?
A flight home.
Okay. If you need a flight home, I will probably get your flight home. Keep going. What? Keep going.
Toothache.
You got a
root canal
toothache.
and a crown.
All right. You got health insurance. Mm-mm.
Oh, but they don't cover a lot. Depends on.
And most parents got something.
Okay. All right. I'm
you
following.
get it. Yep. So an emergency is an emergency. A tire. Okay. We'll say a tire is $500. Give them.
Four. I was talking all four, not one, but
Yeah, not
that
at the
fancy
same
yet.
time. No. And if your student has a car in school, that's a different conversation. But freshmen, an emergency, give them a credit card that is from your account that has a $500 limit. Therefore,
Okay.
if
Low limit.
they do act a monkey, because they do that, they test it. It's not going to break your pocket. $500 is not going to break your pocket. You can do $25 a month to pay that off, but you don't want to have
Thousands.
yeah, thousands and thousands, unless you got it like that. Now, if you got it like that, hey, give your kids your American Express, whatever. But let
But we're
them
talking
be.
about boundaries and limitations, so that as they grow, they're learning how to be responsible about their
Absolutely.
finances.
Absolutely.
So
And if an emergency happens that happens to be about $65 or so, then you take that out their allowance.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. like students or young adults get to learn responsibility, and that credit is borrowed money, and credit is just that. It is your credibility. It is your credit worthiness to
Credibility.
pay back a loan. Credit cards are loans.
So what happens, right? You went to
Mhm.
college, you started with your credit cards, you went into the military, and
Yeah.
then from there,
Hey, I got more credit cards. Listen, I could. I could. I got more. I was in the military. They knew that they were going to get their money back, but it was compounding. And then I got out of the military and I moved to New York, and it was compounding. And when I moved here, I was not making the same money that I made in the Army. So, you know, I did not have enough money to pay those credit cards back, especially living here. Because even in the early 90s, this was the most expensive place compared to the rest of the United States. I did okay, but it was beginning to be overwhelming, and eventually I defaulted. So now I've got bad credit. I didn't know how to fix it. I think at the time somebody suggested that I file bankruptcy, and I thought that they had cursed at me. And had I known better, I probably would have gone ahead and filed bankruptcy, because I wasn't going to do anything. I was here, working, freelancing, doing my thing. I was not going to buy a house. I did not have a car. I had sold my vehicle. I wasn't going to buy one because I didn't need it. So at the time, I probably would have gone ahead and filed bankruptcy. So it took me a very long time to get my credit squared. It took me a long time because
so
I
what was
didn't.
the process? So if anybody just following, if
Mhm.
there's anybody out there who just can't kind of ran amok with the credit cards, feels like they're in a financial bind, owes more than what they feel like they can pay back, what should their next steps be based on where they are in that situation?
Well, I am not a big fan of deprivation, but you got to stop using them. You must stop using them. I say, I say, either file bankruptcy, especially if you're in like way over your head. If you're in 50, 60, $70,000 of credit card debt, file bankruptcy. Just like get okay with not being able to buy a house or a car. You can rent an apartment probably, but like where you're at, like get okay with being there for the next, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Unless you're going to tough it out. Now, if you're going to tough it out, you got to stop using credit cards, and then you pay down highest interest rate first or highest balance first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take the money that you were paying on that credit card, put it on the next one. So the same amount of money is going out every month.
Mm-hmm.
There's a financial guy out here that calls it the snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you take you take your payments and you put it on the next one until you get it paid off. Take that payment, put it on the next one until you get it paid off. It takes a while. It takes a while. It takes a while. But at the time, this is when we get to practice responsibility and not use those credit cards. Because the other thing is that I've noticed is people will get personal loans, or they'll get another credit card, pay all of these cards off, and now they got all these open balances, but then they'll go and run them back up. And now they got a personal loan on top of it or another credit card on top of it. So this is where, I'm not a fan of deprivation. Again, I don't believe in that.
Right.
But
Why?
why?
What is that? Why are you not a fan? And tell us psychologically why.
Because deprivation just causes you to want more and more and more. You start fiending. It's like weaning yourself off of something like caffeine or some sort of drug. The like you get the shakes, right? You get you get
Right.
you get antsy. Your mood changes. So when you deprive yourself of stuff, of just like one little thing,
Yeah.
um 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 then it gets to be, you start acting erratically, right?
Right. Right.
So now people say, I've got what is it called? Retail therapy. I got to go do my retail therapy, right? Now,
Yes. Candles and body washes. That's what happens here.
that's what happens there. Okay. So candles and body washes. Got it. So instead of going down to Bath and Body Works, and this is only if you're in financial straits, instead of going down to Bath and Body Works and buying up, 10 or 15 candles or body washes, get you 3 or 4, because that's probably going to last you the whole month. Maybe a candle, if you burn it correctly, will last you a month.
I'm just throwing
A
out
week,
there
a
my
week.
guilty pleasures, yes,
And
because I
listen,
like to wake up in the morning and decide what fruit I'd like to smell like today. Is it going to be peachy or mango? That's kind of my thing, but I know everybody has their thing, right?
yeah,
And
everybody has a thing.
when we think about our things, I think that's something in our community, because I do want to tie this into how we show up in our community. I work with kids, and I always hear people throw out the Jordans, right? Oh, but y'all got Jordans on. Oh, but you got an iPhone. And sometimes I don't think people who live outside of certain communities understand psychologically how it works when you've been deprived, or when that one thing represents value to you,
Right.
right? If you don't feel valuable, if you look around you and it doesn't look like anything is worth much, having that one thing, where another community might say, well, what do you need that for? You know what I mean? But it's something that makes you feel valuable. And
Mm-hmm.
so these conversations are bigger than just finance. They're also psychological. So let's
Yeah.
talk about finance in our community and how that shows up, whether it be the shopping, whether it be the I got to take care of so and so and now I don't have my own stuff together, whether it be loaning so and so money and not creating boundaries.
Right.
Talk to me.
So it's it's interesting that you mentioned that, and that having a fresh pair of Jordans or the newest iPhone makes us feel like we have something of value, or it makes us feel better about ourselves. Well, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, those of us in the African American, Black and brown community, if you will, at one point in America, we were the currency.
Say that one more time, Vonne.
At one point in time here in America, Black people was the currency. We were the currency. There's an internal struggle that is in our DNA that says to us that all we are worth is a bale of cotton or a cow or an acre of land. Acre of land is pretty valuable, but that's all we are. And that conversation shows up in other ways. And it's been passed down from generation to generation, and through Reconstruction, and through the end of slavery, and through Jim Crow, and through the civil rights. Even millennials have this conversation, even though we're trying to break them from the conversation.
Yeah.
But my parents are products of the Great Depression, when there was just never enough. There wasn't enough. And so there was scraping and making things stretch. And so their parents did that. Subsequently, they did it. And, we didn't necessarily have to do it, but, we would recycle things in our house that probably could have been thrown away.
Yeah.
That's scarcity.
Yeah.
And so there's this internal conversation that's in our DNA that there is never enough. We are not enough. We don't have enough. Don't use that. Don't throw that away. Recycle this. And it's not the truth. There's plenty. There is plenty. We have access to everything. Some more than others. I understand. All right. I'm not here to talk politics. I'm not here to talk about capitalism. I'm not here to talk about any of that. Okay. I'm just clear about where the conversations come from. I'm clear that we all have access. If you have a Facebook page, you have access to the internet. you can figure out how to use Stash and Robinhood. You have
So
an
you just
email
said
address.
Stash and Robinhood. Ding, ding,
Mm-hmm.
ding, ding. What
Mm-hmm.
is Stash? What is Robinhood? How do we get into those conversations
Mm-hmm.
past what you said earlier, which is pay bills, save? What are the other conversations outside of pay bills and save?
So I stop saying save. I do not tell my clients to save. If I'm sitting with you and you're paying me, you don't save. We're not saving. Saving what? Saving for what? Rainy days? No, we're not sourcing rainy days. We save for a rainy day. That's what's going to happen. We're not doing that. So what we're doing is we're going to invest in our future. Save it. So if you have a savings account, it's costing you money. If you don't have X amount of dollars, they're going to charge you $18 a month to maintain that at the bank. And a savings account gets you what? 0.1 of 1 cent or something like that every month. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
So we're looking to invest. We're gonna.
I want to like almost rewind and have you say that again, because somebody only heard you say save. She said, we don't say we're saving. We say we are investing in our future.
Yes.
Right. And so it's language sometimes. We just talked about psychologically our relationship with money. It's not always about what we're doing. It's what we're saying and our mindset around what we're doing with it. Correct?
Correct.
So I just wanted you to run that back, because somebody just heard you say don't save.
Right. Of course. That's right. And that's fine. That, if I don't irritate somebody, then I'm not doing my job. Okay. If I don't insult somebody, then I'm not doing my job. I apologize for insulting whomever, but I do not apologize for what I say.
This is about the generational wealth, right?
It's about the generational wealth. It is about the breaking of this generational trauma, this generational conversation, this internal conflict that we have with ourselves. And money. Yeah. Money is not bad, and money is an energy. It flows where abundance is, right? And it's just like the ocean. It ebbs and flows. It goes out, it comes back in, right? And so if we are in an abundance mindset, it's okay to receive. It's okay. If the little old lady down this block wants to pay you $20 for taking her down to the grocery store, take the $20
and say thank you.
And say thank you.
And pay it forward. And when you have a little something
forward,
pay somebody $20.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. But money is an energy, and it circulates, right? And if you stop the circulation, you blocking up everybody behind that old lady. And in front of you. Take it. I know money, she old. I know she old, but she is clear how much money she has. She knows. So we were talking about investing just a minute ago. So remember I said that really wasn't a conversation, like the stock market was a scary thing. It was a section in the newspaper and it had a bunch of little lines on it. But now we can do it on our cell phone.
So let's talk about that, right? Investing.
Yep.
Tulsa, we've had Wall Street, right? And we see what has happened in the past. And that's also part of our conversation, right? When you talk about it being in our DNA, we were owning some stuff. Our stuff was stolen. Our stuff was taken. I even have great grandparents whose land was taken from them, right? Yes. So how do we get into the new conversation now, right? When we start to realize, okay, that was what it was. We have some new tools now. We got to break through these psychological chains and trust ourselves to be able to do this again. Where do we start investing? Where's our money going to grow for us in the what are the best spaces for our money to be able to grow for us? And then tell me a little bit about what we need to not be doing, because that ain't working.
Got it. So, I say start small. If you are used to saving, putting something away every paycheck, $20, $30, $50, $100, whatever that is, take that money and open you up a Stash or Robinhood account. Right?
Apps on your phone, guys. That's something you can download. Stash
apps
or Robinhood.
On your phone. Yes. And there's also Webull. There's acorns, but that's not, you don't control that. But it's easy too. So take that money and invest in something that you believe in, or invest in something that you know is not going out of business, like Amazon. And this is what I am investing in. I am not giving anybody any financial advice. Whoever is
Okay.
watching,
Yeah,
this is
don't
for educational
Elon
purposes
Musk
only.
us. You know how he tells everybody when he's about to buy something. But if that's scary to you, what are the benefits of that? Why invest?
Because even if you invest in in something like Amazon, right? Put your $20 in Amazon, you're going to get a return that is more than 0.1 tenth of a penny.
So
In a
invest in something safe. You're gonna get way more than you would have gotten if you just put it in a savings account. That's the
Right.
conversation I'm hearing, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Now, when it comes to kids, right? We have a
Mm-hmm.
child who wants to invest.
Mm-hmm.
How do we have that conversation with them? Is it the conversation of invest in something that you purchase? What do we do with that? Because there are lots of kids now seeing what's happening and seeing these apps, and they're like, "Mom, I want to buy some stock."
Yep. Ask them what they like. What do you like? Oh, I like my little Hot Wheel cars. Okay, Hot Wheels is what? Mattel? All right, cool. Let's invest your birthday money or whatever you got that you want to invest in Mattel. And you set them up, but you know, of course they can't do it until they're 18, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Set them up in an app, show them how much money they're making on a monthly basis. Sit down and have a business meeting every month, every week, whenever it's convenient for you. You know, you can do it over a meal, but sit down and have a meeting, a conversation. You know, hey, look, Junior, your Mattel is growing. You know, how much did that little boy make on GameStop? That GameStop flute, that baby made him a nice piece of change.
Google that, y'all.
Yeah. I
When
mean, it wasn't.
GameStop went up.
Yes, yes, and it wasn't thousands and thousands. It was something like 2,500, maybe $3,000. But that was what he profited on. His little $50 that was in there in the first place.
Yeah.
So his parents bought him GameStop stock, and it was just sitting there. And I guess it was getting a little dividend or whatever. Even if it was just sitting there, it was getting way more money than it would have if it was sitting in a savings account.
All
And
right. So lesson one.
yep.
Instead of maybe setting money aside for the children in a savings account, put that money in some stocks. Put it in some safe stocks. Even if you're not familiar, you said Robinhood, you said Stash. So that's just something somebody can walk away with that we didn't know before. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I want to stress the reason we're having this conversation. I sat through a program with Vonne. We have a dear friend named Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany Younger, getting her PhD. She's studying generational Black wealth. And a large part of her conversation was like, what is happening to us? Why is this gap happening here? And what we kept hearing was like, this community over here is doing that with their money, but we're doing this. We're making the same amount as this community over here. Why is that happening? Right? So one of the first conversations that came up were student loans. When some of us hear student loan, look at Von's face. When we hear student loans, right? Many people get really antsy. They'll go live with 6 other people so they can pay student loans $1,000 a month and pay this much for their little room. But we learned that's not what's happening in other communities around student loans. So, Vonne,
Mm-hmm.
talk to the people. Let's talk about what that conversation should look like. We come out of school, they start sending you stuff in the mail. What do you do next?
Wow. I am. There's a generation that have no I have no idea what to say. Some of these students are in young adults. They're 30 years old. They're $200,000 in student loan debt. That is like stifling. I wouldn't be able to breathe if I had that. I have nothing to offer. However, if you have a child that is graduating from high school, I'm going to say two things. I really want you to be intentional. I want us to be intentional about where we're sending our children. Harvard is a great school, but so is FAMU.
Woo woo! Sorry, she didn't. I don't think she even knew.
I did know. I did know.
You did. Okay.
I did know. So is FAMU, and I won't say that college educations don't hold the same weight they do, but we really got to think about, like, what is this degree going to do for you when you graduate? Are you getting it just to be getting it? If you're getting it just to be getting it, go to Baruch. Go to City College. Go where we can afford to pay for it, or your student loans are going to be minimal.
Yeah.
If the baby says, I don't want to go to college, I know that we have this thing in our community. Oh, you don't want to go to college? What do you mean? Do you know that your grandfather couldn't go to, and all of that? The last thing, remember when I was talking about happiness and all of that? The last thing we want is a pissed off 19-year-old that doesn't want to be, because they're not going to class.
Wasting your money.
Wasting your money, wasting their time. Now you're pissed off too. So Christmas break is really awkward. Don't send them. If they don't want to go, don't make them go. They can't lay around your house. They got to go do something and be productive, but find out what it is that they like.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of college graduates. Now, 2020 took them down. They couldn't go to their graduation. I understand that. But now they don't have any interest in getting a job. They have no interest in doing anything. They have no interest. They just want to go back home.
Yeah.
Got it. It took you down. College is a bear. Got it. But they get to be productive. Now, college does teach you how the rest of the world thinks. So it's a great lesson. It's a great learning ground. You make a lot of mistakes in college. But again, don't waste time. Don't waste money. If the kid doesn't want to go, don't press them. Don't press them.
And I'll follow you on the student loan conversation, because a large part of what came out of it was that student loans are actually healthy debt. You pay them every month. You negotiate with them. You tell them how much you can afford. Don't negotiate your whole rent. That's silly. Tell them this is how much I can afford. You pay them $50 a month, $75 a month. As long as you pay them every single month, and when they send you the stuff in the mail, you just renegotiate. Yes, you might be paying those forever. It's a possibility. But you should never let it make you feel like, you can't breathe, right?
Right.
Because,
I mean, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a healthy debt that I don't think our community always understands. And some other communities understand that. So they go on to buy a home and do a number of other things, because that's not being heavily considered on the credit report, right? Whereas we think we have to pay off all $100,000 before we buy a house. And that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'll piggyback off of that even still, Crystyn. Like, if you know that you can't pay it, put it in deferment. Please don't let it lapse. Just don't let it lapse, because then they come and they get your paychecks. And you can't well, they're thinking about changing this, but you can't charge them off in bankruptcy. You're going to pay it back. Somebody's going to pay it back, but don't let it. Don't let it lapse. Just, call them and tell them you can't pay it. Put it in deferment. Yes, you're going to be paying for it on the back end, but don't kill yourself now. So, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. That's a great strategy.
And we talked college, we talked credit, we talked investments. Let's talk about real estate and what that is in our community, and how it looks versus how it could look.
Got it. So that can look a whole lot of different ways. Man, oh man, you that's a playground, really. And you don't necessarily have to invest in real estate where you live. Now, our first piece of real estate is our home, right? Maybe. A lot of
Somebody's looking
people.
to buy a home, Vonne. They come to
Hmm.
you. They say,
Hmm.
I got to get my credit up. Do I
Hmm.
have to have $100,000 to own a home? What do you tell them? Because sometimes I've heard so many conversations where people have this number in their mind that they think
Hmm.
they need to buy or to purchase or to own. And
Hmm.
it's so far off from what the reality is, but it's keeping them from ownership. And that's a huge thing in our community, ownership of property.
Right. So you don't need $100,000. I wouldn't put $100,000 down on anything ever. Anyway, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. Don't empty your bank account to buy a house. And there's all kinds of everything. If you're
Say
if
that
you're
one
a
more
vet,
time, please.
do not empty your bank account to buy a house or to buy a condo or a piece of property. Don't empty your bank account to do that. That's dumb. Does it lower your monthly payment? Yes, but now you don't have no money. You have a house, you can sell the house, but you don't have no equity in the house. So don't empty your bank account. Um, and having a mortgage is your biggest tax write-off for somebody who works. So um, that's a good way to also build net worth, right? But the house is never really yours, even if you pay it off. But if you don't pay the property tax, what's going to happen?
Hmm.
They're going to come and get your house because your house is sitting on their land. So it's never really yours, but it's your biggest tax write-off. It does build equity. It is part of your net worth. And there was something else you said a minute ago about mortgage. What did you say? You asked a question.
Well, I was asking about credit, how much credit someone should have, or
Thanks.
ballpark if they come to you and they're asking, and then
Mhm.
also, they need to do a bit of research before saying I don't have access to that.
Absolutely. So, I've seen people get mortgages with a 630 credit score. Their interest rate might be a little higher, but they get the mortgage for their house. If you have 10% down, most of the time you can get the house that you want or the house that works for you. There's VA loans. If you're a veteran, you don't have to put anything down. There's also VHA. You can also get hard money loans if you're investing, like if you're fixing and flipping, you can get, hard money loans and to purchase the house, fix it up, flip it, pay their money back, and walk away with 30, 40, $50,000. So, real estate is a good way to build wealth. And that's where you can hide all of your real estate in a trust. And the trust is where all of your children can access.
So we got time. We got a little bit of time. So first off, I spoke about Tiffany and her study on Black women and wealth earlier.
Yes.
Tiffany also took her student loan money and bought a condo. So when we're talking about, you know, our college students and what they may be able to do, or what,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they get that money. If you're getting more money than what you need,
Mm-hmm.
be smart about it.
Mm.
But let's go into that next conversation.
All right.
So we we didn't talk taxes, right?
Right.
Those write-offs when you make that investment.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the third thing we were just saying?
Taxes.
Let's go for taxes.
Let's let's talk taxes. So that's your biggest tax write-off. If you have rental property, all of that is, you can write off the mortgage, the insurance, the maintenance, the snow removal, the utilities, all of that. You can write all of that off on your tax return. That money that you make is taxed differently. Those of us that work, our money, our income is taxed at about 40%, 45%.
Whew.
That passive income is taxed at around 25, maybe 23%. So it's taxed differently, passive income. So if you're talking about real estate and investment, like that money is different.
Mm-hmm.
Even your money that you make in the stock market is taxed differently. It's taxed at the passive income rate. Earned income is taxed at the highest. And the more you make, the more taxes you got to pay. So, I was talking about side hustles. If you got a little side hustle, that's going to help you write off more things. All right.
So tell
That's
everybody
a
how that
deep
works.
conversation. Or how does that work? So if your business, if you have a small business, right? Businesses, the law states that businesses can write off or deduct. There's about 400 or so different deductions that businesses can take. So if you're an independent contractor, the federal government looks at you like a small business. Small business, big business can take 400. Small business can take 400. It doesn't differentiate. Well, if you only bring in $500, you can't write off nothing. No, that's not true. Because if you're a business or if you work for yourself, like most of the time, like our whole life is centered around the business. We don't really do very much else. So, we get to write off part of our cell phone and part of our vehicle, part of our travel, right? The part that is not for recreation, because most of the time, and if you're not an entrepreneur, and if you are an entrepreneur, that even while you're on vacation, you're going to do some business because we can't help it. Like we can't help it. Right. And there's always something that's going to need some attention, be it payroll, be it doing our own books, be it, having a meeting, and, thank God for Zoom. Whereas if you work a job, you don't get to take those deductions anymore. You can write off your mortgage interest, but you don't get to take your cell phone. You don't get to take your clothing. Like this is a uniform, right? This is a uniform, if you will. So, I bought a bunch of these to wear when I do interviews. Can
you tell us, what does that say?
It says, "Don't die broke."
And that's your brand.
This is my brand. Don't die broke.
John, don't die broke. And if you want to drop that, if anybody's interested in purchasing, yes. Josh, if you could drop the link. What's the link? Somebody would.
Don'tDieBrokeShop.com. Don'tDieBrokeShop.com. So yeah, there's so many. It gives you a little bit more versatility. It shows more income if you want to, leverage and invest in other things. But again, having property is a good way to build wealth, generational wealth. Having land is a good way to build generational wealth. As long as you pay the taxes and you're in compliance, you can keep that property in your family for generations to come.
So talk about keeping property in the family. Like that's a thing. We have gentrification. People are shifting where they live. How important is it? And, on the financial side, if you are a parent, you have property, you want to leave it to your children. What are those lessons that you need to teach them if you know that you got this property for them so that stays in the family? What are the conversations we need to have?
I'll just reiterate what my parents said. Now, they both have a house, right? So they said, you can keep the house, rent it out, live in it. I don't care. It's up to you what you want to do with it. So sell it, take the money, reinvest, do whatever you got to do, right? Rent it out, you'll have money forever and ever. Amen. Got it. Live in it. That ain't gonna happen. I'm not going back to North Carolina. I'm just not doing it. So have that conversation, but tell them also what the responsibility is. You gotta pay the taxes. You have to pay the taxes on the property. You've got to pay your real estate property taxes every year. Do not let that lapse, or yes, you will lose the property, even if it's paid for, which would be really sad. And
that's part of this conversation is because I've seen that happen. Folks work so hard to make sure they leave a home for their children. And then the next generation comes and wasn't really taught properly how to maintain it. Right. But one of the things you mentioned earlier, you talked about having a trust. So that's something else that in our communities, we don't know much about. We don't touch it. It's kind of scary. I just watched that some show on Netflix. I'm not going to say the name because today is all about American Legacy Network. I ain't talking about no other networks today. Word. But it's a show, a movie about a lady who is taking older people's property. and they have absolutely no say because their stuff is not somewhere in a trust. So can you
Right.
talk about the importance of having a trust?
So if you have significant property, you have significant assets, I'll put it like that. Putting it in a trust will protect it from probate. So if something happens to you, then it doesn't go to the state. Like the state doesn't come in and mess around with it. It doesn't get held up. It doesn't have to wait for anything. You have this thing in a trust. The trust has an executor, usually some legal person, a lawyer, and somebody that you trust. So there's two people involved, and they will make sure that everything happens like it's supposed to, and the state never has to get involved. And that's but these trust funds have taken a bad rap. We're about the trust fund babies or whatever. Hey, if that's a thing, let's find out what that is, as opposed to you know, picking on them,
Oh
for lack
yeah.
of better words, or deeming them less than because their parents or grandparents or great
Thought
grandparents had
about
the
it.
wherewithal to
Because
do this.
my niecey Pooh knows she's a trust fund baby. She told her grandma, I want all the things from even when you go in the box. Grandma, am I still gonna be able to fly? Yes.
Okay.
That's what she knows. And that's the abundance conversation
Absolutely.
you
And
talked
see,
about.
there we go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Let little miss say that all she wants.
She a Virgo too, September. She's
Well,
about her
she's
money.
well, she's gonna say it anyway. Then, if that's the case, you're not gonna be able to stop that. But but that's what I'm talking about. So she knows that she's gonna be okay,
Yeah.
and that's our stressor. We don't know if we're gonna be okay. If we lose our job or one income in the household goes away, then that turns the whole household upside down. If we lose a parent, a spouse, or somebody who's bringing in money, it turns the household upside down. Get yourself some life insurance. And it's really death insurance, really is what it is. If something happens to you, your children cannot eat your cell phone. You can get in a policy for the same amount of money as your cell phone bill per month. Baby can't eat the cell phone. Oh, this cell phone tastes good. Need to look at it. No. Get yourself some life insurance, even if it's term life insurance.
And is that a note for young people too, even who don't have children?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because here's the thing with a 22-year-old. A 22-year-old can get in an insurance policy, a whole life policy, to begin to build wealth. Your insurance policy at 22 years old is going to be way cheaper than the one that I get at 53 because of the mortality rate, the risk of, some health challenges and health issues. Now, the 22-year-old can go out tomorrow and get hit by a car, and I may not. But at the same time, if they have the health insurance, the life insurance in place, their family is good.
Yeah.
At the very least, they can put the baby in the ground, bless their heart,
Yeah.
and he goes out with dignity.
So,
which brings me to another point. If you don't want to leave anybody anything, that's your business. No judgment. I just said, please don't leave your family hanging. However, please don't have them doing GoFundMe's and selling fish dinners down at the church, trying to put you away.
yeah.
Like get some burial insurance. Get a burial plan, so at least you can go out with some dignity. Like I said, your family is going through enough at the loss of you, or not. Maybe they're glad that you're gone. But but at the very least, get something in place where you're not stressing the family like that. Like if the income is gone, but now they got to bury you too, there's a problem. Death. I'm sorry. Burial plan is reasonable as well.
We have been all around, right? We talk savings, we talk credit, we talk we talk savings versus investing in the future.
Yes.
We talk college, we talk property ownership, financial planning, budgeting, insurance. I haven't really been checking the questions. It's hard for me to check. I don't want to lose the screen. So Josh, if you want to chime in and add any questions anybody have before we get ready to get off, while we're waiting for some of those questions to come through, if we do have a little bit of time. I want to send everybody to American Legacy Network. Okay. If you want to see another episode of The Right Stuff, you can see it there. If you want to see some of the other different programs with Jeremiah, I don't know if maybe you guys call him his his entertainment name, but he's over there talking to producers. American Legacy Network also has awesome films from way back in the day. All right, if you have that nostalgia, then please go over, download it to your phone. You can also get our podcasts on Spotify and another network. Josh, if you could drop that in the chat. And Vonne, really quickly,
Yes.
Vonne also does taxes, guys. She does taxes. What's your website?
For the tax business, it's taxbarservices.com. That's TAXBAR services.com. And my website is simply VonneWilliams.com. And you can get to the tax website. That's where the coaching is. That's where, all of my stuff is. You can
So if
set
you
up an
need
appointment
financial
with me.
coaching,
Yes,
if you
financial
need your
coaching.
taxes done, Vonne is
Yes.
who you want to go to. But this is a larger conversation than just that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black history, Black culture, our finances, and what we leave for the next generation is just as rich, right? Because one thing about our people, we always gonna have a rich culture. That's just what it is and what we came from. And if you remember Joseph Edelin, who was on the show, he talked about the fact that our history did not begin at slavery, right? There's so
Right.
many psychological conversations around where we are with money, where we are with land, where we are in politics, and how politics have affected our ability to be able to, maintain our wealth and get the wealth that we deserve and have been working for those of us who have been in this country for many, many years. So I just wanted to stress that Vonne was here today in honor of Women's History Month, and also in honor of Black money. Okay.
All right.
Shout out real quick. We're kind of running out of time, but I said I was going to highlight Maggie Lena Walker. Maggie Lena Walker was actually featured in American Legacy magazine. All right. She was the first Black woman to own a bank. All right. I'll read a little bit about her and then you guys Google her. Learn about her on your own over there too. At the turn of the century, Maggie Lena Walker was one of the foremost female business leaders in the United States. She gained national prominence when she became the first woman to own a bank in the United States. Walker's entrepreneurial skills transformed Black business practices while also inspiring other women in the field. Okay. She was in Virginia. Look her up. That is one of the Black women that we need to celebrate because she definitely paved the road for the rest of us, right? Sometimes we get to unlearn and relearn. And
Absolutely.
one lesson that we keep figuring out is that we are people and we are here to stay and we get to step into our abundance, right? So let's change our outlook on money. And if you're looking to get some more tips on money, Vonne is one of those people you can go to. There's also a woman, I have her book here, Master My Money. Figured I'd share her. Reese Financial Services, another Black woman who does investments, works with people and money. She doesn't do taxes. That's I'm sending you to Vonne for that. But if you're not sure where to start there, right? Take the first step. Yes, thank you, Josh, with
Mm.
Maggie Lena Walker.
Yep.
Matter of fact, go in the archive, order your American Legacy magazine, get that one back, right? But thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to check one more time to see if I missed any questions. I don't think I missed anything. I don't know if I just went away. But thank you guys for joining us. Come back again. Trying to think of who I'll have on next. Feel free to throw some ideas out there. I like to bring on people who I know have specialties in certain things. So I'm totally open, guys. I will see you again. Thank you, Vonne, for coming on to my show. And I
Thank you
hope
for
somebody
having
was
me.
able to learn something.
Me
If you
too.
have any more questions, please hit her up. She might be able to talk you through that. It's okay to say what we don't know. We're always learning. All right. Thank you for joining us, Crystyn Wright Diaz at The Right Stuff. And I'll be back again with you talking culture, politics, and history. See you later.